OK, go to skysports.com/play if you want to get involved. And Dermot has joined us because he's been busy reading the Chelsea website since before the game yesterday on everything to do with Harry Maguire. So that's why he was a little late in joining us. It was absolutely outrageous, Dermot. How dare you? Right, let's go to that situation at Stamford Bridge then. Right, there's a whole load of things in here, Dermot, isn't there? And you can see the audience at home split almost. First of all, Dermot, was it a penalty to Manchester United?
I think it's what we call a modern day penalty, Rob, isn't it? I think when you see what happens, with 25, 26 matches into the season, these have been given week in, week out. We talk about consistency. I think the expectation was to give a penalty. I think more people were surprised a penalty wasn't given.
Can you clearly see then, Dermot, that it touches Greenwood, it touches Hudson-Odoi's hand before it touches Greenwood's arm? Can you clearly see that?
Well, I think it does, and the VAR obviously thought it did because he sent Stuart over to have a look. Stuart wasn't convinced. When he goes to the screen, he retains all options, and he decided he didn't think it was a penalty, so he stuck with his original on-field decision. OK. Have we abandoned the clear and obvious threshold here, then? I think not, Rob. I think what's happened is, we said from the outset it would be tweaked, over the period of time, and it has been tweaked. You've seen over the last 18 months, we've moved forward. I think we asked referees to go to the screens. That was a big thing. Referees are now going to the screens. We didn't say that if a referee goes to the screen, he would have to change his mind. It was still said that he could retain all options, as I say. We've seen referees go to the screens. We've seen them change their decision. We've seen referees go to the screens and stick with the on-field decision. So it is a better product than we started in August last season.
Mm-hmm. By the way, you're in the minority of 43% plus Stephen and Sue against you as well in thinking it should have been a penalty. But there we go. IFAB a meeting next week, I think, aren't they, Dermot, to have a little review of the handball law. It's not going to be a change, it's the way it's interpreted. And I thought this interpretation had changed over the season. Is that correct or not?
Well, one of the things that got changed mid-season was I talk about the Joel Ward incident with Richarlison when the ball was headed down. It quite clearly struck his arm. There's no doubt about that. And a penalty was given. It was felt then that his arms were in a natural position and therefore it shouldn't be penalised. It was interesting. I was watching Stephen's analysis early on and he was talking about Diaz. And you actually saw Diaz, he talked about his body shape. And Diaz's arms were actually out from his sides because he was getting balance. And I wouldn't reasonably expect a player who's struck there on the arm for a penalty to be given. But the argument is his arms are away from his body. So you're caught between a rock and a hard place. You've got to find the right balance.
But two players jostling for a ball then is in your opinion, is different then?
Well, I think it is different because you've seen your split on your vote, Rob, 43, 57%. That's how difficult it is because people are almost, one says yes, one says no. That's why we have a referee. And so it wasn't said yesterday. Go on.
So it wasn't clear and obvious. So it should never have been reviewed by VAR. VAR is what you're saying. Anyway, let's close that poll, shall we? Right now, and we can see that the majority of you thinking it shouldn't have been a Manchester United penalty. Dermot looking perplexed. Sue and Stephen, we've had your say on that one. Right. Let's get to Brighton's disallowed goal, shall we, against West Brom. Before we talk about it, let's have a listen out for Lee Mason's whistle 1 and whistle 2. So let's have a listen first of all. OK, you can go to skysports.com/play to vote on this one. The question for this is, should Dunk's goal have stood. Right. Okay. Dermot, we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. And what the pictures showed, actually, at the weekend was how lonely it can be to be a referee out in the middle there. Because, Lee Mason... anyway, just explain what happened and why it happened and what the outcome of it all was, Dermot.
Wow. I think, the easy answer is, Rob, he's just lost focus. I think when you give a free kick and it's a ceremonial free kick like that, because Brighton originally wanted the ball back 10 yards, he's got the balls placed, he's got the ball back, he's then got to get into his position that he feels. I think for whatever reason, he's dragged back into the players. Lewis Dunk obviously sees Johnson on the post, thinks I can go quick here. He says to the referee, "Can I go quick?" The referee, I think, has lost a little bit of focus and says yes. You see, he's not in the right position for the free kick himself because he's just stepping back. Lewis Dunk shoots, and I think as soon as he shoots, I think Lee thinks, "Oh, I shouldn't have had this free kick taken," blows his whistle again to stop it. But the consequence is the ball goes in the net. I say the consequence because if that ball had gone wide, we wouldn't be discussing this now. But it did go in the net. And because it went in the net, the VAR then can look at it because the ball's crossed the line. And the VAR quite rightly said the whistle had gone a second time before the ball had entered the net. So technically it can't be a goal. What I would like to point out as well, Rob, because there's been a lot of slightly inaccurate reporting of this, is that the VAR played no part in this process apart from deciding the second whistle had gone. The VAR can't have any input on a restart. It's solely an on-field decision. And I think Lee Mason, all he did, he's lost focus, and you see how different it can be then because, he's got players pressuring him. And as you said, it can be a lonely place. I think the one good thing that came out of it was that for whatever reason, he decided to go to the benches and explain what he was going to do. And I think by going to the benches and coming back, that created a little bit of time for him. It gave him time just to compose himself, get himself back in the right zone. Because I think if he'd have had the free kick retaken, he would have still been in this slightly out of focus range, if you like, and not really able to control it as he did afterwards. But I think it's just a mistake he made. I think the mistake being to let the free kick be taken originally. And if that's the one learning point any referee can take from this, it's make sure that you are ready before you have any free kick retaken.
This is the Football Show. This is Ref Watch. Dermot Gallagher with us, as is Sue and Stephen. So let's just wrap up Lee Mason, shall we? For you, you've had a couple of minutes to compose yourself, Dermot, as did Lee Mason, as you were saying, when he went over to the benches. So it was simply a mistake, and as I said, we all make them. So can we put that down to, okay, that's just life? And technically under the law, once he blew the whistle the second time, which was his mistake, the goal technically could never have been allowed to stand. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, because once the second whistle goes, the game's terminated. And as I said, that's the only part the VAR played in telling him where the ball was when he blew the second whistle. And as it wasn't across the line, he couldn't give a goal.
Okay, very quickly to Sue and Stephen. Stephen, do you have any sympathy for Lee Mason and the fact that it just was one of those things?
Yeah, I have sympathy for referees all the time. I know we laugh and joke on here, but that is such a difficult job. And the pressure that they come under week in, week out, I've made mistakes on football pitches. I get held accountable for them, and that's the way it is. But when you're the referee and you make a mistake in the middle of the park, and it's to that degree, it's very difficult, and the microscope comes on you straight away. So difficult moment for Lee Mason, and I'm sure he'll learn from it.
But at the same time, Sue, sympathy for Brighton as well.
Oh, yeah. And for Lewis Dunk. And I just think it was a mistake, an error from Lee Mason. But, I used to take free kicks, and that's the first thing you do. You say to the ref, can I take it? He says, yeah, he blows the whistle. And from Dunk, it was clever. Seeing the goalkeeper out of position, scored the goal. And I just think the most important thing for Lee Mason and for other referees is just exactly what Dermot said. Just learn from it and make sure that before you blow your whistle, you're set and you're happy for things to proceed.
Yep, OK. It wasn't the only thing in this game, was it, Dermot? Right, 2 penalties for Brighton in this one as well. First one, Yokuzlu with the handball. OK, Yokuzlu with that. Any debate over that one for you, Dermot?
I think he leads with the arm. This is where the VAR is really good because the referee wasn't sure, allowed play to continue. The VAR checked it in progress. Game was stopped, brought back, penalty given. Once Lee had gone to the monitor, you could see it then. Penalty given correctly. He leads with the arm.
OK. The other one, Pascal Gross, brought down by Connor Townsend.
Yeah, I think this is a foul as well. A lot of people said to me they think he gets the ball. I said, well, if he gets the ball, he gets it after he's gone around the man. And I think once you go around the man like that, you've got to play the man first, which I think he does. You see, this is a great angle. There he comes round. I think he takes the player there. I'm not sure he does get the ball. Some people think he does, but he certainly gets the man.
See, this angle, it looks like he wins the ball perfectly, doesn't it?
Lots of people said that to me, Rob, but you look at it and I think he does get the man first.
Yeah. All right. OK, that's that one. Now, I want to get on to Leicester against Arsenal because a really interesting one here. This is Pepe going into the box. Right. The first one is the challenge by Ndidi, which he seems to ride and then gets perhaps taken out by... Does he? I don't know. By Tielemans as well. Dermot, pick the bones out of that one.
Right, I think the one to really look at is the Tielemans one because that isn't a penalty area. But you look at it, I think his foot's planted. I don't think there's any contact between Tielemans and Pepe. When you see, is there a foul by Ndidi? I think Ndidi clips him, but it's clearly outside the penalty area. So the VAR has reversed the decision to give a penalty. I think quite rightly said it's a foul outside the penalty area and no penalty.
If Tielemans had touched him, would it have been a penalty?
Well, the referee's within his rights because he can say he's allowed the game to continue. And if he thinks that's a foul, and if the VAR shows that's a foul, which it didn't, a penalty can be given. And that was the on-field decision as well, remember.
Yeah. An eventful afternoon for Ndidi. What about this one? Was this a penalty for handball?
I think if you put your hand up that high, as we said earlier, Rob, it's going to be handball. The amazing thing was I couldn't believe how high he got his leg as well. It was just an amazing attempt to block a ball, but he clearly blocked it with his arm. And the referee gives a penalty, I think, quite rightly.